All right, everyone, welcome to the Pirates podcast to be named later on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I am your host, Eddie Provident. With me, as always, is my favorite Pirates beat writer, Alex Stumpf. Alex, how's it going? You're out in Washington, correct?
Yeah, drove down. Game got rained out, so I got a fun doubleheader going Saturday.
There you go.
It's the life.
Enjoying the sights and sounds in Washington. Or are you keeping it pretty mellow in the hotel room tonight?
I'm keeping it mellow.
Yeah,
They force these comps on me, so it's like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna be eating all my meals here. So
There you go, man. There you go. Alex, you had a really good mound visit this week on the base running and the stealing of bases by the Pittsburgh Pirates. And that made me want to dig a little deeper into how the Pirates are doing what they're doing. 18-8 at the recording of this podcast. Number one team in the NL. And just really surpassing every expectation that I think anybody had for this team. And, we talk about that every episode now, but I wanted to dig in a little deeper and kind of wanted to see what's going on with this team based on the numbers. And I want to get into a little bit of Pirates talk with you guys, or with you, a little baseball nitty gritty. So right now the Pirates, if we break it down, they are tied for seventh in total runs, total team runs. And they are at, tied for eighth now, I guess, after the Dodgers played. They're at 132 runs. What's interesting about that 132 runs, Alex, is that the only team that is either tied with them or ahead of them in total runs that has less home runs than the Pirates is the Baltimore Orioles. The Pirates are doing this all by small ball, Alex. They are in the top 10 in team batting average, top 10 in doubles, and number one in the majors and steals, which brings me to your mound visit. I love the fact that as soon as they get on base, they are looking at every possible way they can get runners into scoring position. I love that. And they're utilizing these new rules. Break down a little bit of your mound visit for those who haven't read it. Maybe don't go, tease it there so we get them to read it. But what are you? Yeah. You're around this team more than anybody. What are you seeing about this team that is making this small ball so successful?
I caught Tarek Brock, just in the hall one day in the last road trip in Denver. And, just talking about the base running. And he said, one of the things I always tell our players, in meetings is, what would you do if you knew you weren't going to get caught? Like, if you weren't going to get thrown out, what would you do on the base paths? And that's the bouncing off point for how they approach this game. And you could really see it. We're seeing more steals across the league, but I wrote in that mound visit, and this was before the Dodgers series where they just took that, ramped it up to 11. They stole 12 out of 13. They went crazy with it.
Yep.
They are stealing more. Their jump and steals is one of the most significant, if probably not the most significant. Now, I haven't rerun the numbers since in all of baseball. This is the first time in the 21st, or since like 2001, that they're averaging over a steal attempt a game, and it's well over an attempted game. Like, it's part of the identity of this offense. And after they won that game on Thursday against the Dodgers to take the series, one thing I brought up was, hey, you guys, won your game. You won the game your way. And they're like, yeah, we played our game. That was something that they were really proud of, that they took on the Dodgers. They played the way they wanted to play. They took 2 out of 3. That was a matchup going in where, like, the Dodgers, the discrepancy between how much they've stolen versus how many caught stealings or how many stolen bases against them, it's one of the largest in baseball, if not the largest in baseball. There was an opportunity there. The Pirates saw that. They took advantage of it. I think stolen bases, we know stolen bases, fell out of favor the last couple years, especially with the 3-2 outcome game. Like, it doesn't matter if you're on first or second with a home run, but it does matter if you're caught stealing, and there's a home run. So they're moving off of that. There's more creation there. One thing I disagreed with, this lineup does have thump in it. One of the biggest spikes in hard hit rate, but more importantly, one of the biggest drops in strikeout rate, one of the biggest spikes in stolen base rate, and a 300 batting average whenever there's a runner in scoring position. That's a big reason why this team is 18-8.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think that if I made it sound like I was trying to say that they don't have thump. I don't. I definitely don't want to say that. Especially when O'Neal Cruz comes back, hopefully comes back healthy. They have a lot of pop in the lineup, especially for a lineup that doesn't have like a bona fide, 40 home run guy yet.
I mean,
and what it is they're not depending on it though. They have it when it comes. Jack Sawinski's been proving himself after the first week and a half of the series or of the season, week and a half, 2 weeks of the season. McCutchen has been able to find the pop in his bat again. We know that Reynolds can do it. Rodolfo Castro has been just an absolute revelation at the plate. He's been great to see that. Even Connor Joe at times, him and Castro go back to back the other day. Yeah.
Connor Joe's flat out great.
Yeah. It's not that they don't have pop. I just think that they are playing baseball in a way that doesn't make them depend on home runs. And I think last year, a lot of baseball teams were playing baseball that depended on power. And the Pirates aren't doing that. And I think what the Pirates are doing is much more sustainable than depending on home runs for your offensive production.
Yeah, and that's something that even going back to 2020, 2021, whenever, this player development new system was starting to take shape, they wanted to build this more athletic roster. They have been, more athletic so far. It's something that's been brought up many times. It's not just relying on home runs. It's relying on getting on base, creating some havoc whenever you get that chance. If you don't have that chance, try to cash in other ways with the extra base hit, with the home run. This has been a very deep offense. They're doing a lot right at the plate. And like I said, I can't stress it enough. Biggest drop in strikeout rate, second largest jump in hard hit percentage.
Yeah.
That's not normal for a team that was pretty horrible in every way you want to measure, in offense last year.
Yeah, it's, dude, I keep coming back to what they're doing, especially after, doing a little bit of research I did for this episode. What they're doing is actually sustainable. At one point in time, and Alex brings up a good point, not you, Alex Correa brings up a good point. What's most impressive is it doesn't matter who sits, who plays, they expect to win. Everyone contributes, doesn't matter who sits on whatever day. And that brings me to my last point with this, is that what the Pirates are doing before I did this, the research for this episode, I was basically at the point where I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. I don't see this team continuing to, be dominant or be a top tier baseball team, all the way out to the playoff race. I'm starting to walk that back a little bit, Alex, because of the point that Alex Correa brings up, that it doesn't matter. Everyone's playing their role. Everyone's contributing. But because of that, and because of what we're talking about with the small ball, it's sustainable baseball. They're actually doing something that can last long term. They're doing something, they've found success with something that this lineup can keep doing. As long as they stay relatively healthy, as long as there's no other big injuries, I think that this lineup can continue to play baseball this way. And this way of playing baseball is going to put you in every game. You may not win every game, but you're going to be in every game for the most part when you have a lineup built the way they're building their lineup.
It's really going to be, I want to see how the league adjusts. I can see how the league was gobsmacked by such a paradigm shift at the start of the year. And that does not take a single thing away from the Pirates and what they have done. If anything, that is just great coaching, that they saw something that the league wasn't prepared for and you took advantage of it. With that said, I've seen a lot of these stolen bases be because it's a double steal and the third baseman just didn't cover the bag. They were in a shift. They weren't paying attention. There are going to be ways at some point where the league adjusts. And I want to see how the league fights back against this, because it has to happen. You can't allow a team to be stealing bases on you at 12 out of 13 times in this series. And the one caught stealing wasn't a caught stealing, it was a pickoff.
So to piggyback off of that question for you, because you kind of alluded to this, is this something that they locked into, or is this something that Ben Cherington
No.
built this team knowing that, you know what, the rule changes are going to significantly change how the game is played, so let me build a team that kind of lends itself to those rule changes?
There's no luck with it. This was something that back in 2020, 2021, they realized that if they tried to build a team 3 years in the future, and if they tried to play 2020 baseball in 2020, 2023, 2024, it wasn't going to work. They had to find a way to find that advantage. They did it. It's a product of good team building a more athletic roster, good coaching. T. Brock, I think his message has really resonated with players, and it's taken off this year. I think he deserves a lot of credit for what they have done on the base running side. So this isn't a coincidence. This wasn't something they lucked into. This was them years ago setting on the path and being like, 2023 is the year. The right pieces are in place. Let's try to take advantage of this.
I think it's a perfect place to put a pin in this and take a break, because you wanted to talk pitching, and there's a question in the comments that I think is perfect to set you up with.
We might have to wait for that one because someone doesn't want to check their text messages.
Oh, someone doesn't want to check. Okay. All right. We're going to put a pin on that on this segment and on the pitching thing. Maybe we'll touch on it real quick. When we come back, I'll read my text message and we'll talk about what he sent me. We're back. I just read my text message up on my computer screen here, and it says Reynolds segment 2. So let's talk about some Brian Reynolds, Alex. Since my pitching idea got thrown out the window.
I've just done so much Brian Reynolds stuff the last couple of days. It's like, oh yeah, we should do that for the podcast.
We should talk about him a little bit. I mean, it's not
biggest story of the year. Maybe
it's not like he just signed a $106 million contract or anything, Alex. I mean, like, what? It's nothing going on with him.
No.
So take us, the listeners, everybody, take us through your timeline. I want to know, like, when you found out, like, what your day was like when this news dropped.
I mean, this is just sending text. This is just it kind of came out of the sky a little bit because a couple of days ago I said, like, hey, is anything going on? They're like, no, everything's hush hush, from now going forward. So it's like, okay, this is just gonna fall out of the sky one of these days, and it fell out of the sky. And look, I didn't expect it to happen whenever the guy was on bereavement leave. I'll say that much. No, I'm more. This is a deal that needed to get done.
Yep.
For a
multitude
of reasons. The most important being, at some point, this organization needed to draw a line in the sand. And maybe Reynolds is not 100% the best player for it, if that might be your opinion. I'm not saying he is or isn't. But Hayes was a good start last year.
Mm-hmm.
But you needed someone else. Hayes was willing to be the first guy through the door, but it was put very clearly to me, like, he only signed that contract because he was convinced there's more money coming and someone else was going to get it. And Reynolds was a very logical choice. He is an all-star quality outfielder. He is someone who is probably going to age fairly well for the next 4 or 5 years at least. Maybe he won't quite reach that 2021 peak as he did again, but he is someone who is going to put in impact year after impact year. It's a deal that needed to get done because I really wonder what would have happened in this timeline if this deal does not get done. And what happens if they get to the 1 yard line and fumble? Does it mean that they eventually have to trade Brian Reynolds right now whenever we're starting to see the window start to open? You can't do that, but you also can't let a player of that magnitude leave for nothing. So they are put in a no-win situation. The deal needed to get done. It got done. There was a lot of different people who had to make it possible. Bob Nutting is one of them. Ben Cherington is one of them. Brian Reynolds is a big part of this
Yeah.
because even through it all, like this deal doesn't get done unless Brian Reynolds earnestly wanted to stay in Pittsburgh.
And I think one of the things that I haven't seen talked about a lot yet, and I'm sure it will be talked about, is the impact that this is going to have on other guys, namely, or mainly, O'Neal Cruz. I think seeing the Pirates actually dish out legitimate money to a star, even if it's at a hometown discount. Let's ignore, I know it's hard to do, but ignore the hometown discount for a second. The Pirates have finally put up a $100 million contract. For somebody like O'Neal Cruz, that if he stays on the trajectory that he is on, he's going to be able to go out and command his number. Maybe if he sees, oh, okay, they just paid Key Bryan, they just paid Brian, so maybe I'll stick around. Maybe I'll follow suit, give a little. I don't want to go too far down the line here, but I do think there's something there.
I'm not going into this because Cruz and his agent weren't willing to sign the offer that the Pirates would, and that's why his contract was renewed instead of he agreed to terms for the year. Like I'm not looking past anything beyond Brian Reynolds right now. And
I get what you're coming from. I just my pushback on that is it has to do something for the morale of the rest of the roster to see them finally say, you know what, this is our guy. We're going to pay him like he's our guy, and we're going to keep him here, even if it's a little uncomfortable for us as an organization. That has to do something. Yeah.
It's a 9-figure deal. They've never seen that before. That's something new. That's something important for the future of this organization. That's something that shows that it's not just trust the process, trust whatever. It's no. Brian Reynolds is in this lineup. Hayes is in this lineup. Those are 2 impact players.
Yep.
We can build around them. That's what matters. That's what really matters more about this deal than anything else.
Yeah, and
building blocks for years to come. You have a message to the young players who are coming. I've had conversations, the last couple years where they're like, they wanted something like this to happen. They just wanted tangible proof that it wasn't always the guys who come up from the minor leagues are the only people who matter in this organization. No, it's Brian Reynolds. He's here. He matters. He matters $100 million worth.
Yeah, it's nothing but good news. And I mean, if you think about what Pirates fans, the city has been through, we had the 3 years of playoff baseball and then right back down to, where the Pirates have been for the majority of our lifetimes. And then to see it all happen this season, early this season, they're 18-8. They're a competitive baseball team. They're surpassing every expectation, like we said in the first segment. And then, last year they signed Key Bryan Hayes. This year they signed Brian Reynolds. There is starting to become a little bit of a groundswell. We've jokingly talked about the Pirates vibe, but there really is something to that. I finally went to my first game of the season Wednesday night when they beat the Dodgers 8-1. Roanzi threw 6 beautiful shutout innings. There's just, even on a Wednesday night, middle of the week baseball game where it's not a huge crowd, but there's a buzz about it, man. There's a different feeling inside the stadium. People were excited. And honestly, dude, I got to shout out the players too, because how I'm seeing the players interact with the fans. Like, I was over by the bullpen taking photos, and the amount of time that Jason DeLay and Austin Hedges spent with the little kids, just talking to them, goofing around, throwing baseballs at them, that kind of stuff. The vibe is so different around this baseball team, and I can't help but think if this Brian Reynolds deal doesn't get done, that vibe is not the same. Because this deal got done, I think it took everything about this baseball team to a different level.
I mean, I think it's more that vibe there's a much better chance that continues in the 2024 and 25 and so on and so forth.
It's just going to keep growing and building off of it. Yeah. We'll do one more segment. I've got a question for Alex. Speaking of vibes, I got a real vibey question for Alex. And I'm really intrigued about your answer on this one. So we'll be right back. Segment 3 of Pirates Podcast, Be Named Later, is coming up right after this. All right, we are back, Alex. I have a question for you. I always have a question for you in segment 3.
All right.
I said in the last segment to end it out that I finally made it to PNC Park for a baseball game Wednesday night. One of the things that struck me, and I texted you about this earlier this week, the walk-up songs are elite this year. Like, they're really quality walk-up songs. And we've got some, I'm just going to roll here. A Bay, which is perfect for G1 Bay. We've got, BTS, shout out to my wife and her friends for G-Man Choi. We've got some Lil Uzi Vert. We've got Wolf Mother in there, Will Crow with Wolf Mother. I love it. We've got some Childish Gambino from Connor Joe, Pearl Jam in there. Like, there's a great mix. Obviously, Renegade, Back in Black for Brian Reynolds. Just a lot of really good music. So my question to you, Alex, what would your walk-up song be if you had to pick one song?
I've been asked this so many times, and I never have a good answer.
Well, I need a good answer on the podcast, live, on a live stream right now. I need
at least
Alex,
you had the common decency this time to tell me I was going to be live streamed. Unlike last week.
So we hear the PA now batting. Second baseman for the Altoona Curve. Alex Stumpf. What music comes on?
I saw Brett Suter in Denver enter to the Jurassic Park theme song. I'll go to that one.
The Jurassic Park theme song. Man, you just saw Elton John's final concert in LA.
Yeah.
And nothing from Elton.
I mean, I could come up with a ton of, songs.
I feel like you would be perfect with Tiny Dancer.
That's not walk-up music, though. You can't just do a song.
Oh, okay. That's not walk-up music, but come on, man. Like, some of these, like Rodolfo, I don't know. I'm going to be the first person. I don't know a lot of hip hop. I have my box that I stay in when it comes to hip hop. But Rodolfo Castro's intro, like I loved it, but I have no clue what it was. It wasn't really walk-up music. It was more of like a something. Tiny Dancer or Benny and the Jets or Crocodile Rock. There you go. Alex Stumpf comes out to Crocodile Rock.
You really want someone to come up to bat? It's just
No, but I got you to do that on a live stream. So I mean, that's good enough. It's good enough.
That's the promo.
There it is. That's the Twitter. That's what we use on the Twitter. On the Twitter promo. That works. Just throwing it out there for me. It is without a doubt. I've already thought about this. This was my warm-up music when I played ice hockey. I would put my headphones on. I'd run my headphones up through my gear, and I'd have this on while I was taking my warm-up laps. It was always Avenged Sevenfold, Shepherd of Fire. If you don't know it, check it out. The intro to that song, it's got the bell toll.
And you went with Elton John for me.
You seem like an Elton John kind of guy.
I am.
Hey, listen, I love Elton John. It's not a knock. I'm just saying. You don't strike me as a Mon Amarth kind of guy. Like, I can't see you doing Pursuit of Vikings as your walk-up intro or anything like that. I can't see you coming out to Biggie or Tupac. So I think Elton John is perfectly your lane. Maybe something from Rocky Horror.
We'll go with that. Sure.
You got anything else to add?
All the inside jokes. Just tell the whole world all the inside jokes. Which is my cue to say we're going to end this broadcast before Eddie starts giving my social security number out. Thank you all so much for listening. We're going to talk next week after Eddie's done with his timeout.